Hi guys, Justin Hines here again, and welcome back to a Let's Play of Recettear, an Item Shop's Tale. And we are going to continue right where we left off, entering into day 2. Assuming this all loads the way it should. Little concerned as to the speed here. Seems like we're doing okay. Loading times have gotten a little bit worse. They're a little bit worse than I'm playing these, but it is what it is. Alright, so what we're going to do today is we need to go ahead and continue to load up our shop. As you can see, we're pretty barren. We've got a lot of open slots, and we just don't have a whole lot to sell right now. So what we're going to do is, since we don't have a lot of money either, we're going to go out there into the world, and it is time to check out the Adventurers Guild. Now, the Adventurers Guild is going to give us the ability to go ahead and play dungeons in order to collect items, which can then be resold to the individuals that come into your shop. Basically, what you're doing is you're still playing an RPG at that point, except you're going to be reselling things rather than stocking up your own supplies. Although there's some of that as well. If you find weapons, you can equip them while you're in the field, and you can also go ahead and keep a hold of items and whatnot for healing purposes when you're going on these dungeon runs. So let's go ahead and check out the Adventurers Guild. As we just said, the Adventurers Guild. Dungeons. I always like this. Without approval, people can't enter dungeons. You're going to find out at some point that's not entirely true. That's something the game does have. This is actually a pretty noticeable mechanic. The game is very adamant about the fact that before you can acquire new adventures beyond the first person, which they pretty much give to you, you will have to actually earn people's trust and confidence. So as you meet new people, many of them can become adventurers, and they'll all fight differently. So you'll find that certain people will be better in certain situations. I'd imagine. I actually haven't gotten to a point where I've been able to really use other adventurers. I'm still actually doing, on the side of this, I'm doing a play on my own just to kind of get a feel for some of the elements of the game, so I'm a little better at explaining things and understanding how this all works. So I guess you could say I'm cheating a little bit on this LP because it's not really blind, but I don't really like the idea of presenting something I don't want to sound ignorant as I'm explaining this, basically is what I'm saying. Let's get back to this. Sorry about that. And whenever you get a guild card from somebody, they become your adventurer. You know, I've been to some dinner parties that have been like that, I will be honest. But I'm from Detroit, so that's probably not a fair comparison. It's time to meet our first adventurer.
だから何度も言ってるだろ。
The guild test. You only actually have to do this one time, and basically it works as a tutorial area. Time to go recruit. Top-notch animation there.
どうすっかな。
ちょっといいですか?
You there, adventurer with the CD look. 'Recettear blows me away. I really don't know what to think of her as a character. Hey, English. Once again, the cuteness level tends to always be really high in this game.
Oh, yoroshiku na.
Louis! I actually like that. Louis, just... You don't see too many Louis nowadays. It's kind of a cool thing. You know, the more I think about it, the more I play this, the more this game actually reminds me, or... it seems very inspired by the Harvest Moon games. And what I mean by that is, it's Harvest Moon, the idea of running a farm, comes across as what would probably be one of the most mundane and boring things in the universe to do. But in all actuality, is actually it's a fun sim-style game. And this is very much the same way. Where running an item shop doesn't sound exciting, but ultimately it is. You're not only running the shop, but you're actually going on adventures and whatnot on the side. So it's really got an interesting relationship there. Okay, we don't have any items to add in. He's just going to have his default equipment. So let's go ahead and start exploring the Hall of Trials. After the atrocious load times. The load times seriously are not this bad when you play the game. This is just perhaps absolutely crippling the file system, apparently. So, no, just you don't have to worry about that if you play this game. Actually, it actually runs at an even higher frame rate, a lot better. This is actually gonna be kind of a test because we'll if this could be bad with all the enemies and whatnot and the lower frame rate. We'll find out, I guess. I'm going to skip the tutorial, but I'm going to explain what happens. Basically, what she's going to explain is Recettear and Tyr cannot actually be hurt in any way, shape, or form. The only purpose they serve is basically saying yay or nay to inventory, which you're going to do as the player. Also, on top of that, if you ever completely get knocked out, your HP is reduced to 0 while you're in a dungeon, you will get the option to take one of the items you've collected and then escape the dungeon. However, since you can normally hold 20, this means you're going to be leaving a lot of really good stuff behind, probably, so you ideally do not want to run into that situation. What I'm saying is do not be afraid to heal in this game. No items to equip. Attacks are straightforward. You have a standard attack in front of you and a spin dash. You attack chests to open them. You get the counterattack bonus anytime an enemy is normally about to attack or considering attacking. Side attacks and back attacks are self-explanatory. Traps. Traps can happen whenever you walk into almost any section of the hallway. You'll get an exclamation point when it happens. Just sort of look out. I'm going to apologize if this is coming across choppy in the video. It's coming across fine in the games, but it normally runs a lot smoother than this. This is a noticeable difference, actually. So I apologize if I'm showing you what seems like a crippled version of the game. It's not my intent. Okay, here's where we're going to use our first skill. Spin attack, and that was actually enough to level me up. These gems you're picking up aren't actually money. They're essentially your experience. So you automatically collect them. You don't have to walk around. Basically, it's just a visualization of how much experience you're getting for your skills. You have to be careful, though, because the only way to recover your special attack power points, your SP, is to level up or use items. So, same with HP as well. Critical attacks happen on their own. You get no control over them. We got a couple of items, actually, we can equip out of this. If you equip any items, he will re-equip your character you go in with will re-equip their default equipment whenever you go to leave. And you'll be given back all the stuff you gave them to use temporarily. So you don't have to worry about forgetting to unequip somebody and them walking off with all your shit. That won't happen. You can walk into that field to go to the next floor. We're going to keep exploring. I like to fill out the map at least as long as we're in here. You don't want to go back with any part of your inventory empty if you can help it. The ingredients you've seen me pick up a couple times are unidentified, basically, at this time. I've heard as you get to higher levels, you basically will start to recognize what items they're dropping. But I haven't gotten to a high enough level where that's happening all that frequently yet. I still get a ton of ingredients when I go out in the world. I'm not sure when that occurs or if that's even completely accurate. The game infers that. You'll notice I have a chain going. That 11 chain you see going on, 13 now, is it increases as you kill enemies of the same type, increases the likelihood of better loot drops, and also increases the experience output as a result of killing them. So I'm actually going to keep clearing out enemies for right now on the floor, and get all, just for no other reason than to get all the extra XPs they're dropping. You rarely ever get this high of a chain because you get thrown such a variety of enemies. But in the first couple levels of this dungeon, all you're running into are slimes, basically. You might run into some blue slimes in trapped areas, which will break your chain, but you run into mostly green slimes for the first couple floors of here, at least. I'm also going to go ahead and warn you guys that if this video ends up going over 15 minutes, I will split it into half. I will try to do so at a point that seems as appropriate as possible. But since I wasn't smart enough to bother starting a time counter, we'll just have to kind of play it by ear. Oh, apparently your chain combo also does break when you change the floors. Didn't know that, but it's good to know now. Ow! Red slimes are just tougher and do a little bit more damage. Slime fluid. The pluses are, if you use them later, eventually you'll get to do something called item fusion, which allows you to combine different ingredients and different weapons and armor. The way fusion will work in that case is the better ingredients and weapons you use, the better finished product you get. So if you use a +3 as opposed to a +1 or a +2, it's going to create a better outcome item. It's going to be stronger, more effective, and it's going to sell for more, importantly. The mechanic I don't know if they talk to you about in-game, but I'm going to bring up also, is one of the customers you'll see in your store are the adventurers that you hire. If your adventurers ever buy better equipment from you, they will permanently be equipped with that better equipment. Ooh, a longbow. Which means it is very, very beneficial sometimes that if a person says they can't afford something, to try to make sure they can get it because it's going to permanently increase their output. And as long as you're not losing your shirt on it, that's only going to help you when you go to explore to find better items. So, never be afraid of that. Also, your level is constantly retained, so since it's in the bottom left corner, Louis is currently up to level 5 from the experience that we've gotten him. Whenever we go to hire him on any quest, he will still be whatever level he was last time and can continue to grow on that. I don't know how dying affects that if you lose experience. I honestly have no clue, because I have not had it happen to me yet, so... Enemies will start introducing attack patterns and combos. There's no way to jump or block that I found so far. Maybe different characters have that ability, but I have yet to find it so far in any of the characters I've played. Well, which is just Louis actually at this point, so... I'm not actually entirely sure what the other buttons do. I know that in the shop you can change your camera angle with the button and that you can view item descriptions. I think that's... Yeah, I can see item descriptions and change my skill that I'm currently using, but there's no other... Unless there's a skill for blocking, I don't have the ability to block. One thing that actually really gets on my nerves is the fact that every time you get hit, Recettear feels the need to start spewing something at you. I'm not knocking a Japanese game for being in Japanese. That's completely fine. But it is a little frustrating that she's saying the same thing clearly over and over again, which not only is annoying, but I also don't know what she's actually saying, so it's confusing. Ooh. Rusty dagger. So that part's a little bit... It's a thing, doesn't really derail the experience, doesn't take away from the overall experience, but it is something you will notice. Every time you get hit, she will say something to you. You can usually throw off these enemies that you might notice that you can throw off the enemy's attack pattern, like that guy that normally dashes forward, just by being off lane from them. So if you're not lined up perfectly with them, they usually won't go into their standard attack patterns. Which is something to always keep in mind because it can help you out. These guys are a little bit nastier. What they can do is if they hit you, they will suck a small amount of HP back into their own health. So you don't want them to get close to you, or it can extend the battle longer than you might want. once again, we have our exit there. I'm really hoping that when I go back to verify this video, it's not like ridiculously choppy. There, you see that where I like got hit by like some sort of visual effect? That was where it sucked HP out of me. I'm actually finding a fairly decent selection of goods here. Your loot is obviously randomized, so you don't know what you're gonna necessarily get until you get it, but I was gonna do my spin attack and didn't realize I was out of SP. Because I am smart and I know how to read my heads-up display. I kind of wish they gave me enemy names just so I knew what to call them instead of... I think I deflected that first one. I've never done that before either. I didn't know you could. Longsword plus... Holy sh... That's pretty awesome. What the hell? We'll actually equip that. A little bit of extra damage. Doesn't ever hurt. Back to having our skill power full again. Or skill points. I honestly don't know what SP stands for. Gonna kill these guys all a little faster now that we have the much better sword equipped. So one of the strategies you could adopt is now that I have a longsword, I could not ever sell it in my store and just hang on to it for adventures. But honestly, you're gonna get better equipped over time, and fusion is always better than always gonna be just about the best way to make items. So I'm not too worried about it. One thing I would actually advise is at the, also, you may have noticed that earlier, the Guildmaster sells some pretty decent equipment. The really good stuff I would not actually bother with at all. I would actually not bother with buying it unless you get to the point of item fusion, because it can speed that process along. So if you can find certain items, you can just buy some of them in store. I'll explain more what that means when we get to it. That's not going to happen for a while. I don't even think during the first payment period you're going to run into it. Alright, let's get out of here. We've got a full inventory. We've seen everything in these levels. Onward!
Yatta ze!
Damn. Now he's an official adventurer, and as part of the agreement, he will give us his first card. And we will be seeing a lot of Louis. He seems like one of the most stable guys, and I will tell you, for the first several days, go home, yeah, yeah. I like how she tries not to actually say that. Door of return, yes, indeed. Yes, that's actually true. Every 5 levels, you'll get an opportunity to go back and dump stuff off. And then you can return straight back to wherever you came from. I'll just summarize that. And we're out of here. We've cleared the Hall of Trials. We've gotten our first actual adventure. We have a good selection of, well, goods. As long as we're out, we might as well stop and check out some of these other places. Sometimes you can run into characters or story events here. Or nothing at all. That actually happens too. A lot of nothing at all. Well, game, why don't you just tell me to go home? Let's go ahead. We still have enough time during the day to go ahead and open the store, so let's go ahead and put some of this new equipment that we got out here obviously putting the best stuff in the window. And let's see if we can sell some of this stuff. Nothing too phenomenal in this run, but all the stuff in the window is worth about 700 or so, which we should be able to get a decent amount out of. So let's put everything else on display. I don't know what Nani Okokana means, but she's really adamant about it. Let's open the store and actually do some real life selling this time. Ah, wants the longsword. As we talked before, we should be able to go between 20 and 30% in most cases. However, you will learn that certain characters, there's only about 5 or 6 that I've seen so far, I'm sure I haven't found all of them, have certain maximums they'll go to on those increases. Let's try that. We sold at 25% above, and we didn't pay a dime for it, so that is a good sale. Ah, he's going to go ahead and upgrade his chest piece. So we actually want him to get this, but we still want to try to make a profit. We'll start at 1,000. We'll drop it back to 900 for him. And now he's equipped with better armor, so next time he goes out, he'll take less damage. So that's also beneficial to us. We're selling all the showcase items today. That's awesome. So, by the bow. Aw, I was really hoping we could sell all of our showcase items. He seems to be doing good, right around 125%. Awesome! Sometimes it's beneficial not to get overly ambitious or overly aggressive because you get combination experience bonuses for selling items in a row without having to go into a haggling session. So if you're able to nail the price several times in a row, you're actually going to gain a lot more experience. And now we're going to get rated on our performance for the day. Exceeds expectations. That means we're on the right track, guys. And that is day 2 of Recettear, which is going to bring us into day 3. She is going to probably explain payments, right? Yeah, we're going to skip this, and I'll just kind of give you the rundown. You'll see on the calendar that appears on the left side of the screen, there is a circled date there with a payment due. That is our due date for our first payment. The payments will increase significantly as time goes on. I'm pretty sure the next one's like 30,000. So you're going to need to constantly keep a good, solid inventory in-house and constantly keep finding items to sell in your store. This means you'll be doing probably a lot of adventuring. I figure at least 3 or 4 days a week you will want to be doing adventuring. And then you'll want to spend the other days just selling stuff. You can open your store 4 times in a single day, and we're going to get into more of that as it goes on. But for right now, seeing as that we're on the next day, we're going to go ahead and save. And we're going to go ahead and put an end to this video. So hopefully you're enjoying this. I appreciate any feedback you can give me, and join us next time for Recettear, an item shop's tale, as we'll do day 3. Till then, take care.